Can you tell us your name and which neighborhood you live in?
Yes, my first name is Shang and last name is Tao. And I currently live in the Lincoln area, but previously before that, I lived in the Laurel district. My whole adult life, I've lived out here, and it's just been a beautiful place. It's nothing like the city of Oakland. It's unique in its diversity, and not just that, but in uplifting everyone, especially those who are marginalized.
And what made you decide to run for mayor?
Well, everything that you see that's happening right now, quite honestly, it's being a mother who is raising two kids here in the city of Oakland. I think that it does many people disservice, especially those families who are working families who may be working multiple jobs to ensure that they can afford to pay rent, or not just that, but the single parents. I was a single parent myself. I was a DV survivor. I lived in my car and was homeless before. And I'm seeing so much of this here in the city of Oakland. And it's heartbreaking because it feels as if nothing is being done. And in the city of Oakland, the mayor has an executive authority. We have a hybrid strong mayor. So therefore, it's the mayor's position that is allowed to direct city staff on how we move forward with priorities. And I just feel, and I can see, and I think that everybody can agree that they see that Oakland is as dirty as it's ever been. And not just that, but we have a public safety crisis. We have our affordable housing crisis. So many of our neighbors are living on the streets in undignified ways. And then that also disenfranchises many families from utilizing the public spaces that they would be able to use, such as our playgrounds. As a single mom, playgrounds and parks are my front yard and my backyard. And so things are going the wrong way. And so for me, it's not about standing still and not doing anything about it. I'm very effective in how and I understand how City Hall works. And so I'm running to be Oakland's next mayor to ensure that we can effectuate the change that we also deserve.
After interviewing Oakland residents, I found that public safety was the top concern for most people I spoke with. So, can you briefly describe your plan of action for public safety and policing?
Absolutely. And so, public safety is my top priority as Oakland mayor. That's why I have a completely comprehensive public safety plan focused on increasing investments in investigations, specifically hiring more homicide detectives to solve crime. We know that our solve rates are pretty low. And then not just that, but we need to actually invest in our investigators to get the dangerous criminals off our street immediately and put officers back into our commercial corridors to help small businesses and shopper. This has been something that I've been fighting for, and the current mayor and I have butted heads on this, but I do believe that it is incredibly important to bring back our officers into our commercial corridors. I'm working on currently right now with bringing retired officers to handle some of the duties so that we can free up our officers for street and foot patrol. And I plan on working with the chief on that, and we'll continue to have those conversations. I also plan on investing significantly more into violence prevention, especially ceasefire, which addresses gang violence. And I'll expand our youth internship and apprenticeship program specifically with Peralta and the different high schools, getting them jobs all year round. I was invited by the public advocate of New York City, and we saw to be on a panel. We saw that if we were to give our young people a job, a paid job, that their running into law enforcement or committing a crime is decreased by about 70%. And so, I'm the council member who has invested the most into public safety. I'm the only mayoral candidate to have invested in violence prevention and violence interrupters. And I will continue to double that. More so than that, I am the council member to pass the 5th, 6th, and 7th Police Academy, created the incentives so that we can keep our officers in Oakland as well.
Can you briefly describe your plan of action for addressing homelessness as well?
Absolutely. It's completely heartbreaking for me, being an unhoused person previously, that under the current administration, $70 million, right? The auditor found that $70 million left City Hall doors and not $1 has been accounted for or tracked. That means we don't know where those funds are going and if they're even working But what we do know is that there is an increase in our unhoused population by 25% in the last 3 years. And so for me, the first thing I want to do is I'm working on with Council Member 5 to open up the North Gateway parcel. And I want to get as many pallet shelters up on that parcel as many as possible so that we can house as many people, bring people into this space and get them into the dignified shelters off of our streets, out of our parks immediately, so that we can start to triage the situation. If we allow for there to be encampments everywhere across the city, how can we triage the situation? That's where we're at right now. There's a crisis, and we need to make sure that we then can bring the wraparound services on site, including putting families at the forefront so that we can actually house these families, get people who are able to take on a job, get them a job immediately, and start giving them the services that they so deserve, including social services and mental health services and substance abuse services. But first and foremost, we need to get everyone onto a central location so that we can triage the situation. And not just that, but also importantly, so that we can know who is actually coming from other cities or who are the folks who are being unhoused that have been living in the city of Oakland.
Decisions the next mayor makes about a new Oakland A's stadium will have a huge impact on Oakland's economy in the coming decades. So what will you prioritize when making decisions about the Howard Terminal development?
Absolutely. I've been pretty clear about my stance on the Howard Terminal. I do believe that under the current administration that there's been this huge focus solely on Howard Terminal, and that we are allowing many of other crises go by the wayside, including public safety, our unhoused community, affordable housing, and others. And so for me, the Howard Terminal, I can always get to a yes if, and that if is if they have very strong community benefits and strong backstops in regards to making sure that it's written down on paper that we, the city of Oakland, and the residents of Oakland, taxpayers, will not be held accountable for the financial responsibility of building this Howard Terminal out. It is a land development, right? It's just not the stadium in itself. Also on game days, I want to make sure that it's the Oakland A's who are paying for all the services, including public safety as well on those game days, ensuring that there are community benefits inside the stadium, right? Like, how can we get our Oakland-based vendors inside the stadium so that they are also a part of generating the revenues? But more so than that, we have to have the affordable housing aspect of it. I'm asking for at least 15% affordable housing on site and at least 20% off site.
How have your past experiences prepared you to lead Oakland as our mayor?
Absolutely. I have a very unique skill set in the sense that I was a staffer, a policy director turned chief of staff, and then I ran for my seat for city council. And I tell you, I know that my opponents are coming in trying to run a public bureaucracy, a public government bureaucracy like a business. But what they don't understand is that this is a public government. It's been institutionalized for hundreds of years. And I understand how it works on the inside. And this is why I am the most effective council member on the city council. Every single project that we have worked on and have funded has already broken ground or has been completed. A great example of that is that we've broken ground on 197 affordable units in the Laurel business districts. This is 197 affordable units. And so we need more of that leadership. I have the endorsements of many of the elected officials across the state, including in the state assembly, in the Senate, and not just that, but Congress. We're going to need a lot more help in the city of Oakland. And so I will use these connections like I previously have to bring in more money to the city of Oakland, including how I got the $2 million line item for Deep East Oakland Parks, because I know that they've been underserved and underheard and underactivated. And so this is not just that, but I understand how, for lack of a better word, how the sausage is made so that I can be effective and know how to start on day one. And so using those skills along with working with community and having the strong support of city workers, I am the only candidate who has the support of city workers at City Hall. So we'll be able to unite all of City Hall and make sure that we get the work implemented. Number two, I am the only mayoral candidate to have the support of the majority of the council members. My colleagues are all supporting me for it to be the next mayor of Oakland. And that is incredibly important. We're seeing right now that the current mayor does not get along with the city council and vice versa. And we're seeing that nothing gets done. This is an opportunity for Oakland to vote for unity. And I am the unity candidate. I can bring big business and labor together as well. And I have that proven track record that goes really far back to even when I was a staffer.
Is there anything I didn't ask that you'd like Oaklanders to know?
Absolutely. In regards to how we fund our affordable housing, right? I do want to touch on that. Currently, under the current administration, they have built 130% market rate housing. And altogether, only about 24% of moderate rate, affordable, and deeply affordable housing. And so I am the champion, along with Council Member 5, pushing forward an EIFD, an Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, which is an incremental tax that is not a new tax on taxpayers, but that's how we would actually create the seed funding for nonprofit developers to actually develop the affordable, deeply affordable, and moderate rate housing. And our goal after my second term as mayor is to build 30,000 units of housing here in the city of Oakland. And I want to be very clear that, there is a couple of land grabs that have been happening, including with Mills. Northeastern has absorbed Mills. They have cut down the number of, the number of programmings that they have there. And we're seeing now that they're trying to rezone it for luxury condos. And that is going to hugely affect and displace so many Oaklanders in District 6, including our Black and Brown communities and low-income communities. And that is not okay, including at Eastmont Mall, where you're seeing 200 market rate units going up, setting aside only 20 units for affordable housing. That is not okay. That is not equitable. And so in that district, I know that my opponent is a huge supporter of both of those plans. And I would say caution to everyone, as they will be displacing a lot of Oaklanders and increase the rents in the city of Oakland.
All right, thank you so much. To close, can you recommend a local restaurant that you wish more people knew about?
Absolutely. I love Cambodian street food, and they're at 2045 Foothill Boulevard. I actually ran across Cambodian street food just recently, and it's just amazing. So I hope that people will frequent Cambodian street food at 2045 Foothill Boulevard.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.